Harwick Fisher, the director of the British Museum, said in a speech during the 2021 Silk Road Week, hosted by the China National Silk Museum, research and collaboration are the heart of the museum. Now let's move to the second panel, International Collaborations Empower the Museums. The first speaker will speak on the theme is Dr. Feng JING, the Chief of Asia and the Pacific Unit, World Heritage Center of UNESCO. Everyone knows about UNESCO, but I bet some of you might not know that in the UNESCO there are two units related to the Silk Roads. One is the World Heritage Center. As early as 3 decades ago, Dr. Jing has started to take part in and then gradually host the work of the Silk Road's application as a World Heritage. Eventually, in 2014, this became reality. The other is Silk Road Project. Due to the inherent connection between silk and the Silk Roads, we had many collaborations such as meetings in Korea, meeting in Spain, meeting in Oman. They also welcome some Silk Road-related museums to participate in various activities during the Silk Road Week that kicks off every June. Today, Dr. Jing will make his presentation titled The Power of Museums, UNESCO's Work on Heritage Conservation and Promotion for the Silk Roads and Beyond. Welcome.
尊敬的各位领导、各位同仁、朋友、女士们、先生们，大家好，我叫景峰，是联合国教科文组织世界遗产中心亚洲和太平洋部主任。在2022国际博物馆日之际，我很高兴从联合国教科文组织总部巴黎发送视频，热烈祝贺中国丝绸博物馆30周年庆典。作为汇聚193个会员国的政府间国际组织，联合国教科文组织是唯一一个具有全球文化使命的联合国机构。教科文组织的组织法确定它的宗旨为在人的思想中构建和平之屏障，文化和博物馆就是教科文组织的核心业务领域。Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear friends and colleagues, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. I'm very happy to address you today from UNESCO headquarters in Paris on the occasion of the webinar on the power of museums. I would like to warmly congratulate China National Silk Museum on its 30th anniversary in 2022. On behalf of the UNESCO World Heritage Center, and in my capacity as coordinator of the Silk Road World Heritage Nomination Project, as well as Chief of Asia Pacific Unit, it is an honor and pleasure to welcome you all to this online event. This online event is organized by the China National Silk Museum with a focus on the power of museums, research, collaboration, and the community. And very glad to see with us today many representatives from the global museum sector and several international experts from different countries. My topic to this event is entitled The Power of Museums, UNESCO's work on heritage, conservation, and the promotion for the Silk Roads and beyond. According to the 2021 UNESCO report on museums, China now counts 5,535 museums, which places it among the top 5 countries with the largest number of museums in the world. This makes the topic of today's discussions on the role and scope of museums even more relevant, as these many institutions have credible potential to reach a wide section of the population. As you all know, the Silk Roads have been a great source of inspiration and subject of wide-ranging research and activities for many decades. The network of land and sea routes stretching from East Asia to the Mediterranean and into the Indian subcontinent generated and facilitated a two-way intercontinental trade in the great array of routes, not only in the Chinese silk, but also precious metals and stones, ceramics, glass, perfumes, ornamental woods, cotton and wool textiles, carpets, wine, spices, as well as prized animals. This trade along the Silk Roads connected various civilizations and continued over many centuries, sustained by a system of caravanserais, commercial settlements, and trade cities along more than 10,000 kilometers, making it the arguably longest cultural route in the history of humankind. UNESCO played an important role in harnessing the tremendous potential of the Silk Roads for international cooperation. Between 1988 and 1997, the organization carried out a large-scale project entitled The Integral Study of the Silk Roads, Roads of Dialogue, which aimed to raise awareness of common civilizational routes among Silk Road countries and promoted a concept of shared heritage of humanity in the spirit of the 1972 World Heritage Convention. I'm very proud that I could participate in 2 of the UNESCO expeditions in the summer of 1990 and spring of 1991 for the Desert Road expedition from Xi'an to Kashgar and part of the Maritime Road expedition from Venice to Osaka. I was inspired by the rich cultural heritage sites along the Silk Road. Since 2003, the UNESCO World Heritage Center has played a key role in the cooperation of the serial transnational World Heritage nomination of the land route of the Silk Roads, which was also an outcome of the first cycle of periodical reporting. A feasibility for a serial and transnational World Heritage nomination was carried out in the summers of 2003 and 2004, and then to be followed by the nomination of this on China's tentative list. General concerns were raised early on about the manageability of the complex Silk Road transnational properties, and also the assessment of their outstanding universal value. To address these concerns, a phased approach was considered the best way forward, and in May 2009, the Intergovernmental Coordinating Committee on the Serial Transnational World Heritage Nomination of the Silk Roads was established in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and this committee was tasked with overseeing the nomination process and joint efforts on the state of conservation of the inscribed property. Today, this coordinating committee counts 18 member countries working closely together on this exceptional and unique site with the support of the UNESCO World Heritage Center and ICOMOS International. The participating countries of the Silk Roads project developed a methodological and strategic approach for the preparation of a serial transnational World Heritage nomination of cultural heritage sites along the land routes of the Silk Road, following a heritage corridor nomination approach. This has been reflected in the ICOMOS Silk Road thematic study produced between 2011 and 2014. As a result, in June 2014, the World Heritage Committee inscribed the Silk Roads, the roads network of Chang'an-Tianshan Corridor on the UNESCO World Heritage List, following a nomination submitted by China, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. This World Heritage property is a 5,000-kilometer section of the extensive Silk Road network stretching from Luoyang and Chang'an, central capital of China in the Han and the Tang dynasties, to the Jesu region of Central Asia. It took shape between the 2nd century BC and remained in use until the 16th century, linking multiple civilizations and facilitating far-reaching exchanges of activities in trade, religious belief, scientific knowledge, technological innovation, cultural practices, and the arts. The 33 component sites included in the routes network include capital cities and palace complexes of various empires, trading settlements, Buddhist cave temples, ancient passes, post offices, beacon towers, sections of the Great Wall, fortifications, tombs, and the religious buildings. Together with these monuments and sites, there are also hundreds of site museums presenting the rich cultural heritage along the Silk Road. As the coordinator of this project, I'm very proud of these achievements, which promoted international cooperation in the framework of the 1972 World Heritage Convention. The activities towards the World Heritage nomination of the Silk Roads have been undertaken with a combination of capacity building efforts, training in the preparation of scientific documentation and nomination dossiers, along with the reinforcement of sub-regional and regional cooperation and intercultural dialogue. They have further empowered international cooperation in culture and museums and have become a well-known model for future similar World Heritage nomination initiatives. Museums have always been placed at the heart of UNESCO's mandate. For decades, UNESCO has developed norms, principles, methods, and objectives regarding the role of museums, notably through the 1970 Convention on the Means of Prohibiting and Preventing the Illicit Import, Export, and Transfer of Ownership of Cultural Property, the 1960 recommendation concerning the most effective means of rendering museums accessible to everyone, and most recently, the 2015 recommendation concerning the protection and promotion of museums and collections, their diversity, and their role in society. Within the structure of these international standard setting instruments, UNESCO mobilized and assisted member states in establishing legal frameworks and policy environment that supports and enriches museum development. The organization advocated among major stakeholders and decision makers to seek consensus on the essential role of museums to our society, and supported museums in their safeguarding of culture and natural, tangible, and intangible heritage through capacity building, heritage conservation, and museum revitalization projects worldwide. The 2015 UNESCO recommendation concerning the protection and promotion of museums and collections, their diversity and their role in society was adopted by the 38th session of the General Conference in 2015. This standard-setting instrument highlights some fundamental aspects of the role of museums in contemporary societies, including their contribution to sustainable development and intercultural dialogue. And this is also the key words of the Silk Road project. The recommendation all aims to assist the member states in the development and implementation of adequate policies and the provisions relating to museums to preserve heritage in all its forms, stimulate creativity, and support the transformative power of museums in the culture, social, and economic fields. According to Resolution 40C-89, UNESCO will submit to its General Conference in November 2023 the second consolidated report on the implementation by member states of the 2015 recommendation. A first consolidated report on the implementation of the 2015 recommendation was produced in 2019, and the report is an important tool to improve the visibility and implementation of the recommendation. More financial and technical support is also expected for the publication of the next consolidated report. This exercise is of particular importance as it will provide UNESCO with recent data concerning statistics and activities, policies and good practices at the national, regional, and international levels within the context of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, thus allowing for a future evaluation of the challenges faced by the global museum sector as a whole. Moreover, it will point to priority fields for possible multilateral cooperation through UNESCO and its partner network. The 2015 recommendation is applicable to museums and related institutions on collections judged important by member states for their character of representing the diversity of their heritage of all forms. In addition to the museum's contribution to the mission of UNESCO, their roles also concern areas covered by the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development to build a more sustainable and peaceful world. Museums and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development has very close relationship. The 2030 Agenda emphasizes the importance of pursuing together the building of a world of universal respect for human rights and human dignity, for cultural diversity, gender equality, and permitting the full realization of human potential. Thus, museums can contribute to these overarching goals, and especially for fostering knowledge and awareness of topics closely related to sustainable development, such as food security, water, modern energy, economic growth, infrastructure, industrialization and innovation, consumption and production patterns, climate change, ocean and marine ecosystems, terrestrial ecosystems and biodiversity, partnerships for development, including through new technologies, encouraging the acquisition of knowledge and the skills needed to promote sustainable development, including through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, gender equality, promotion of cultural peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. More importantly, this will empower and promoting the social, economic, and policy inclusion of all, and strengthening efforts to protect and safeguard the world's culture and natural heritage, and thus strengthening the recovery and the return of stolen assets. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, more than 2 years after the start of the pandemic, many challenges are still pressing. We stand at crossroads with the new post-pandemic era unfolding in front of us, and the organization of this online event by the China National Silk Museum provides us with an opportunity to bring together some of the top international experts and museum leaders around the world to take regional, national, and local circumstances into account, share the experience, lessons learned, and inspirations of the pandemic, shed light on the way forward for museums, and convey the important message to major stakeholders worldwide to support museums' future transformations. The word transformation was never a stranger to museums. For decades, museums have been in the process of self-transformation. And yet, once again, museums must redefine and rebuild themselves to face the post-pandemic challenges. I'm sure that the deliberations of this online event can reach some common ground and help shape principles upon which to rebuild our museums better and more powerful. Museums must be built to strengthen social cohesion, promote inclusion, and serve the people. The international cooperation along the Silk Roads showcased power of museums in raising awareness, providing common ground, and inspiring solutions for defining issues of our time and contributing to the sense of shared heritage. Many cultural properties, such as the Loman Grotto in Luoyang, Donghuang Mogao Caves in Gansu Province, and many others, provided us with vivid examples of how museums, as cross-cultural actors, can contribute to mutual understanding and intercultural communication through international cooperation programs and exhibitions. The serial transnational domination of the Silk Roads have fostered international cooperation and intercultural dialogue, and thus contribute in a very positive way to enhancing the power of museums along the Silk Road. Last but not least, museums will be rebuilt on solidarity and cooperation. The experience shared through the Silk Road project is that museums have greatly enhanced the cooperation, intercultural dialogue, and solidarity. Museums must present to our society the bigger picture of cultural diversity and the beauty of our shared common heritage, which is especially meaningful in the post-pandemic context. Meanwhile, as the pandemic widened the inequality between different museums, partnership can contribute to narrowing the gap and increase resilience to risks. Therefore, we need to have stronger ties and partnerships with major stakeholders outside the museum world, policymakers, international organizations, NGOs, private sectors and industries, schools, universities, and research institutions to increase visibility, mobilizing resources, and increasing influences. If the pandemic has made us realize one thing, it is that our society cannot afford to lose our museums, especially in times of isolation. We need museums to be places of intercultural dialogue, communication, and mutual understanding. In times of turmoil, we need museums to be a harbor and provide comfort for our spirits. In challenging times, we need museums to be the source of our creativity and inspiration. The options we make, the paths we take today, will not only help us navigate through the difficulties and recover the power of museums, but also lead the way to a more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive future for our society. UNESCO is committed to supporting all member states and museums around the world as they respond to our new realities and recover from the impacts of the last 2 years. And UNESCO will continue to take its work into the next stage. Thank you very much, and I look forward to a very successful and fruitful online event. 谢谢大家。